we govern. You can't continue to be pushed to the left and pushed to the right. Stay in that middle and pull people back to the middle.
It's notable that you're not ready to sign off that Joe Biden's been moving to the middle. You don't buy it?
Well, this here, I think Joe Biden, that's his inherent who he is. He's been pushed to the far left, and that far left is not basically where the country is. And the far right is not where the country is. Coming back to the middle, then we can continue to bring people to the middle and do our job.
Let's pause very briefly to just point out how continuingly convenient it is that under Joe Manchin's definition of what the center is, which I will remind you, if you're new to politics, you might not know this. When a politician or a member of the media says that something is the center, that's an attempt to define as reasonable what they already support. Did you know that? That the center is not like an objective thing, it's just whatever they say it is? That a moderate is not an objective thing. There are no characteristics that make you a moderate or not. It's just what the media agrees. And hey, what do you know? The center is a place where not a lot of crazy social stuff happens from either the left or the right, but the rich always get what they want. Isn't that convenient? Anyway, that's not where Joe Biden is, according to Joe Manchin. And this is said in the immediate aftermath of him signing a deal with Kevin McCarthy and getting many Democrats to sign on to this deal that cuts the federal government. Despite the fact that all the Republicans have been able to do in terms of winning in government is getting an incredibly narrow majority in the House, wherein they got less votes than the Democrats because of the structural inequity of how we choose congresspeople, the gerrymandering and all that. And he still went with the Republican plan, and that's not enough to get Joe Manchin on his side. We're gonna respond to some of his specific claims there, but what do you think?
It's just insane to me. Like, there is no winning him over. There isn't, no matter how many pens you give Joe Manchin that you just used to sign this bill, he will not give an inch. And it's exactly right. He does not, because Joe Manchin is afraid for his own reelection campaign in his own seat. So there's nothing that he could do. But you're absolutely right. He has moved to the center. He has rolled out the red carpet for Joe Manchin's particular and personal plans. And yet, no, nothing. Nope. Yeah. It's never going to be good enough. He can never give him any kind of credit, because that's
Joe
not
Manchin
what he's about.
Just got his pipeline.
He just got his pipeline.
Worthless. It doesn't have any. No, he just gave him his pipeline. Full steam ahead. Toot on wrecking the climate. No credit whatsoever. And you are right that you would think that this would lead them to considering that he's moving towards the center. And I mean that both in the biased mainstream media way, but also the objective way. In the biased mainstream media way, he's working with the Republicans, which supposedly it's bipartisan. That is what the center is supposed to be. But also from what the center really is, it is a deal that is meant to benefit the rich. That's what it's designed to do. Cutting government spending doesn't help working Americans. I think that should be fairly obvious. It helps people who don't want their taxes to go up. And remember, we had talked as a country about the possibility of fixing the deficit and all of that, raising money, blah, 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 by raising taxes. They immediately cut that out of consideration, not coincidentally. So anyway, this is obviously moving towards the center in that it benefits the wealthy. But he also said that he needs to move away from the left. He needs to move away from radical democratic ideas because people don't support that stuff. Well, the cool thing that has come about just in the time from when Joe Manchin said that to now is they developed a thing called a poll. And with this new technology, we're able to actually figure out what people believe rather than just say for them what they believe. And it turns out that when you ask people about things, they actually think the government should be doing more than they are, including when they're polled about their concerns around global warming. People are very concerned. A great deal or a fair amount is at 65%. 43% believe that it will pose a serious threat in their own lifetime. Now, to be fair, they have been largely in support of this sort of thing going back a couple of decades. I guess they've backdated it since polls are brand new, as we pointed out. But that's what they believe on gun control. They think that gun laws should be more strict. That doesn't matter, and it hasn't mattered for the last 30 years where people have been saying that. It's never gonna happen. When you ask them about universal health insurance, they have been increasingly in support of universal health insurance. Briefly in the aftermath of the passage of Obamacare, it had flipped. That is not the case, and every year they're slightly more supportive than the year before. On gay marriage, they could not be more clear that they think that people should back off on trying to restrict that. And on legal protections for trans people as well. I keep being told by Fox News that trans activists are a super tiny minority and nobody cares about them and their interests beyond that. But that is not the case when you actually poll people, just in case someone from Joe Manchin's office is watching. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you don't even have to be an activist, right? You just, I believe trans people should not be discriminated against and should live their lives. And yay. Anyway, let's move on. Let's move on and let people, leave people alone. Give people that individual freedom and liberty. But I think the Manchin-Biden unrequited love, if you will, is such an example of how we need a real democratic socialist in the White House. Like, we need someone eventually, right? Sooner rather than later, with a vision, with a plan to actually right this ship, to actually deliver for working Americans, to actually tax the rich, to actually rein in climate change, to enact a Green New Deal. We need all of these things because why? They're gonna be called a socialist anyway. There is no winning. If you steer the yacht of American capitalism minimally away from, hitting like a lifeboat of poor people. Like, if you just sort of steered away, everyone's like, oh my God, you're a communist. Like, that's what happens. So why don't we just fully avert disaster? Why don't we actually go in there with a plan? I do think Biden, look, a transitional president, yes, but not a transition to Kamala Harris. A transition away from fascism, a transition of like, hey, whoa, ooh, let's come away from that edge, folks. Hey, remember democracy? It's kind of cool. It's pretty broken in this country anyway. Yeah. And transition into someone who can actually enact a real vision. And Biden doesn't have one, and so you get Manchined.
100%, yeah. And they've been doing nothing. I mean, I'm only pointing this out, not because I'm surprised by it. They've been doing nothing during the couple of years of Biden to set us up for an actual progressive leader. Of course, they're not going to, but who have they tried to elevate? I mean, they've barely honestly even tried to elevate Kamala Harris. And I sort of understand that. Buttigieg, I guess. I don't know. What's the next generation? Who are they setting up to run in 2028?
Nobody.
I mean, there are plenty of people that could.
Yeah.
Once the establishment doesn't get to say, like technically we're supposed to have an actual election every 4 years. We're not gonna do that. Biden's just automatically the candidate, even though there's nothing that says that that's supposed to be the way. They're not gonna have that in 2028, but they're not setting us up for that. I guess Gavin Newsom, I don't know. Who are they promoting?